it's not gonna work.
Don't worry about that.
Okay.
So, actually. Yeah.
Okay, Sarah, just to kind of show you here, so upon starting the meeting, which I did, I'm going to mute and turn the camera off. But what this does is now we can confirm that it's indeed recording up there, right?
Okay,
See that?
and I'll be able to see that the whole meeting, right?
You'll see that the
With
whole
red
meeting,
guys
yep.
out there.
That'll be recorded. And then, of course, when somebody does come up, what we're gonna do is I'll show you here in a second what we'll do with it. I'm gonna just turn this off.
We heard from Penny?
She mentioned, that she would be here, she came to the tour for new commissioners on Monday, she mentioned that she. But, I can find her cell number.
I'm gonna send her a text, I think.
Found me. Is your name with the H or just SAR?
SAR.
Okay. Just trying to get it right. Alright. But it's Schilling, right?
It's Shilling.
Okay. I see on Facebook,
Yeah.
it keeps telling me, oh, this is somebody else. Well, I guess it is.
So,
Because I admitted that I knew you and so
oh, you're in
Now-
trouble when you admit
now
that.
there's all kinds of names popping up.
Is one of them? Does one of them rhyme with, witch? Okay, have you started?
It is currently ready to go
Okay.
for you.
So we are going to just hold off, I'm gonna say till 2:10. But we've gotta have the video going.
Yes,
Yeah, what's pen?
1:10, thank you.
I am going to mute and mute right now.
Mm.
Is that okay with you to do so? All right, all right.
Meeting of the Sunset Empire Transportation District and calling it to order formally at 1:06. And we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. And if you want to stand, you can stand. If you don't, We can do it sitting down. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good deal. And so, Sarah, would you please take roll call?
Yes, Commissioner Montero,
Present.
Commissioner York,
Better late than never.
Commissioner Colbert.
Here I am.
Okay,
Okay, you're being recorded. I'm gonna be in the other room. Okay, all right, good.
thank you, Jason.
You're welcome.
Public comment. Do we have anybody from the public watching us
No, we
online?
do not.
Okay, good deal. No public comment. So
Well enough.
that's right. So our business today is select a chair, set a mission, discuss bylaws work, and prioritize our policy work. So let's start off by selecting a chair.
That one.
Oh, you're
I
a
always
fine
say-
fellow today, aren't you?
If anybody wants to do this.
I will say I do not want.
That's why I said that one.
Okay. Am I the chair by default?
I nominate you.
I second.
Okay. I will take it on a short-term basis. How's that?
Okay.
So, all those in favor of, Tina Montero being the chair, signify by saying aye.
I,
All right.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, I guess I'm the
Sure.
chair.
All right.
Okay. All right, so mission. I don't know that this committee already has bylaws with a mission.
I don't think so.
As you all were going through things, and Sarah, did you find anything? Okay, and it really, I think, sets the tone of the work and guides everything. If we do have a mission and we have bylaws. I would hope we don't spend a lot of time on bylaws.
I'm not familiar with any committees that have bylaws. At charge is a common thing, experience that lays out whether or not it's ongoing, temporary, especially if it's temporary, what is the purpose of it? And what are the limits so that it doesn't stray into the work of the board or the staff or other committees?
We don't get committee creep.
Yes, exactly. But there's not a lot of rules other than staying within that church.
Right. And I kind of, when I say bylaws, I'm thinking the charge. What is the responsibility? I think that's part of the mission, is what it's responsibility. But the bylaws are, if we have to have meetings, that's where they should sit.
Is this going to be a standing committee? Does it need to be?
And this is, I think we can decide this. It would seem to me that it's a project committee at least to get through all of what's already in place and figure out if there's new stuff. Standing committee, I would say there may always be work, but it might not be that we have to meet, say, twice a month. It might be once a quarter. But because you always want to be reviewing your policies. Are we doing what the policies say we do? Is there anything we are doing that we need to add to policies? Or deleting, etc. So it's my understanding that we are a standing committee.
I would propose that it should be a standing committee. It needs to be a standing committee, sorry. And at least a minimum of once a year to meet and review. During this year, we will probably have to meet probably 4 times,
Oh,
at
I,
least, to get all the work done. And I would hope a couple of meetings before the budget is done,
yes,
because some of it's going to refer to budget. So that's what I was thinking.
I agree that, I think we're gonna have a lot of meetings just to get us back to where we need to be with all of the policies in place and signed off. And, and it could be, I know that some policy committees have done this before, is that once you get all your policies in place, you have them on a calendar, that this has to be revisited and re-signed, every 2 years, every 3 years, or whatever. And that's what, maybe you bring a certain number of policies to every board meeting and say, okay, these have to be reviewed, because it's not just us reviewing. And when we review, we can recommend to the full board, these don't have to be touched, or these are some changes that we recommend.
I don't know why I've seen it done. I've seen it done this way, as you're describing it, but also that it's a regular review. So there's a 3-year cycle, let's say, and a third of them are looked at every time. And that there may be reasons that something comes to the board, and from the board, it can go to a committee for recommendations, or it can be done directly at the board level. So let's say that there's a change in a law, and the board chair or the executive director says that affects this policy. So out of cycle, that's going to come to the board, and it could come, let's say, from the executive director who's analyzed the law and how it affects. So it comes with a recommendation. The board looks at it and says, yeah, we agree with the recommendation, or, I think this one will be just different. In that model, there can be a sense, say, from the board that one set of the policies really doesn't quite work together, and that needs to go to a standing committee or a temporary committee that's set up to review that. And then they're going to look over that whole piece and then bring that bigger chunk of work. So it can just sort of ride with that. Every year we review this section. And then an exception is because something else happens. Somebody's not satisfied internally with full level with some of the policies, or something has happened external that we need to look at.
So we could have, if I paraphrase what I understand, we could have a standing committee, and then as needed, the board could ask for an ad hoc committee to address particular issues, especially legislative issues.
Well, I think those are like two different options. So if there's a standing committee, when it needs to be, we need to dig into some work, it would go to standing. And if there were a standing committee a couple of months maybe before the time when we're going to review a set of them, the standing committee may take a look at it first, say, these 90% are probably not going to get any significant changes, but these two are going to need some analysis for the board, to the board.
And if there's something new that happens, legislative or whatever, I would see that as a standing committee, it could also be the responsibility of the committee to bring this to the board saying, hey, we think that this needs to be worked on, or we need to look at a couple of policies in relationship to this new law or whatever. So I wouldn't say that another ad hoc committee would be formed.
Okay.
That's why you have the standing committee. It just kind of, and membership on that committee is going to change. But the purpose of that committee is going to stay the same.
So
Yeah, that makes sense.
I have one concern. It doesn't mean not doing a standing committee, but just I would want us to keep in mind. You can get too many standing committees.
Oh, yeah.
And so there may well be a time that, there are more committees and the board as a whole looks at it and says, you know what, we could merge these two or
Exactly. Oh,
whatever.
I totally agree with that.
But I think that idea of having a standing committee that right now has a lot of work to do,
Exactly.
let's say in the next year.
Right.
But thereafter could just be a once or twice a year thing unless something
Mhm.
comes up that needs more
Right.
investigation.
That's why I was saying, at least once a year, we need to review, see if there's anything we need to
Mhm.
address. If you leave a policy too long without re-examining it, it can,
Yeah.
you can just steer completely away from it and nobody notices. Yeah.
And what we have to also realize is that the policies also inform new board members, new committee members of this is the practice, this is the belief, this is the philosophy. So I think I hear consensus and agreement on all that. So if we start off with we've been talking purpose, etc., you can create a mission out of that. And mission for me is usually like just a couple of sentences. It's not this long, overbearing thing. But I think what I've heard so far on mission has been that we review policy.
And I would suggest a 3-year cycle that fits with board member 3-year terms. So a new board member is going to go through the whole set of boards, a whole set of policies with the board during their first.
Yeah. So and also it's to some extent the policy committee members are probably going to have more, I'm going to call it intimate knowledge of the policies. And maybe also the ones that say, wait a minute, board, we're not following the policy here. Or we're doing something that's not in line with policy. So.
Or
Certainly the advantage of having board members on the meeting.
standing committee versus an ad hoc.
Yeah.
Also, one thing I noticed as I was going through one of the policies, I think, was there's some thoughts laid out about what to do if the executive director needs to act on something that there isn't a policy about, and who the executive director has to consult with, and I could speak, but and what to do if the board chair isn't available. But I think it's also a time you might say, you know what, we have a policy on this, and we should.
Absolutely.
So that's also, that could either come out of the standing committee, or it could be referred to the standing committee after there's a situation where somebody at the board or one of the executive director says, this is an area where we really don't have guidance and we should. So you don't want too many policies, but you don't want big areas that really are policy issues that are
I look at the policies like protocols, like for working EMS, you have protocols. But these are the things that we want you to do, but we're giving you the freedom to operate. We're not micromanaging every step of the way, because that would never work. So to me, the policy is the same kind of framework. These are the things that we want to try to accomplish in this way, but we're not trying to micromanage operations so much.
well,
Our policy can't be about operations.
that it can't
yeah,
be about
and-
operations and to think about it being more of a philosophy and a guideline, but as you said, not details. That's not the board's role to be detailing what a staff person is supposed to do.
And I didn't really mean that. I mean, how a board functions, how you run a meeting. I don't think we need to write up that. I think that we need to just put the overview of, the policy would be that we are going to conduct our board meetings in an open public meeting format in accordance with the statutes and just cite the statute.
Right.
And then we're covered. As long as we know that's how we're operating. And do it that way instead of trying to, describe how the wheel functions. Just say the wheel will function.
And sometimes you do have to say,
Yeah, there are some points, yeah.
so I just jotted something down that we can jump off of. And as a mission, create, review, recommend policies to guide the actions and processes of the SETD board in optimal functioning for the district. And I'm not wedded to any of this, it's just like jumping up.
I think that's true, but I would add that our responsibility as the board is not just about how the board functions, it's about how the agency functions. So not the operational details, but, and this is something that I
Right.
had mentioned to you, that as I was going through the sections, just looking at the table of contents with the sections, one thing that was missing to me that I'm used to seeing is an HR. There's an operations, there's finance, there's safety, there is an HR. And what I'm accustomed to is, again, not telling HR what paperwork needs to be done, but a foundation, a philosophical foundation of our decisions are made based on non-discrimination. So it's a non-discrimination policy would be an HR policy. There might be something else related to, I'm truly making it up because I didn't go back and look, but about the well-being of employees, about the overall hiring process that is open, how we feel about opening positions for applications versus promotions, internal promotions. So not how to do that, but say when I moved from California to Oregon, it was a surprise to me that that there wasn't more emphasis on open applications as a means of allowing an increase in the diversity of staff and leadership. And I just came to see it as a cultural difference, but having some statement about how we feel about some broad issues like that, I think.
Guiding philosophies.
Yeah, I think that's a good.
And a policy can be just that, the guiding philosophy, that the agency will operate without discrimination, et cetera, et cetera. So that's going to be in, as we see what policies we need to be recommending, et cetera. But so let's go back and boil that down to our mission. Because if we don't have that mission, we will have mission creep, committed creep. Because we don't do everything for everybody. And so I think we're talking about the what's in the policy, but this is, the mission is sort of the why. This is what we do and why we do.
Yeah.
This is what this committee does and why this committee does it. So.
More the why than the how.
Oh, it's not the how at all.
Right.
Yeah.
The picture of of what we want to
Okay.
achieve, kind of.
So let's just do a couple of things. What is the what that this committee does?
Reviews policies.
We review policy, we create, we write
Yeah,
the
we'll
policy.
establish policies if they're.
I don't think we establish the policy. I think the board establishes.
Might say draft.
Draft, thank you,
Draft, good word.
draft, and then we recommend to the board. Okay, what else do we do?
We recommend both, policies and policy changes, but also, a timeline.
That's the how. I don't think that's in our, would you say in a timely manner or in a regular manner?
I think in a timely manner is good because there's gonna be some on a schedule, I think, and some because there is some urgency around that particular area.
Okay,
So timely kind of covers it
okay.
without being restricted.
And then let's look at we have the what, the how, and the why. Why do we do this? We're doing our work so the board can do something.
And operate with consistency.
And according to law,
Only laws and in the public interest.
and so,
Public interest focus is really important because we are a public tax district.
and also, at the highest level possible, do we want to also say that so the board can operate with transparency?
That's a good one. Thank you.
These are the right words, but will help delineate board versus operations.
And,
That mean under guiding principles.
yeah, that might be under guiding principle. But the other thing is also, and you said in the public interest, and it's not just in the public interest, it's also so the public knows what we're doing and why we're doing it, and that kind of thing. So it's, and that comes under transparency, I guess.
Yeah.
Let me chill on that for a minute. Yeah, so we'll find a way to say that.
So I'm not sure we're gonna come out with a statement by the end of today's meeting, but let me propose something and give me more words as we go along. I have had very good luck creating mission statements and watching committees create mission statements where the committee has thrown all these things into the bucket and then you throw it into Chat GPT. And then you bring it back and you edit that. I have seen some really good mission statements come out of that. And I would like to suggest that we try that approach. The other thing is that for another purpose, I'm already in contact with Shanta, can't think of her last name. She's the manager of the consulting services of SDAO. And at the SDO conference, somebody mentioned something about policies and procedures, and they've got some expert there on policies and procedures. I would like to, if they have a template that says here are, you need to make sure you have a policy on these things so that we don't forget any policies. So I'd like to also make that a request from SDAO to send us their template if it's not online, then we can just rip it down.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that.
Yeah.
I think that's great, and while you're at it, you might ask if they have a template for policies.
Yeah.
I like ours. I like that there's that box at the top.
Yes.
It really can help
This is
consistency.
what I'm used to, is the box at the top.
I haven't gone over it to say,
Right.
gee, is anything missing, or is there stuff we don't need, but
Yeah.
but the idea of asking for a template from them is again maybe going to show us something. Oh, wow, I
Right.
might want to add this.
And I think one of the things we can come up with as we're getting more into the actual drafting of policy is what we want the format to look like. And one of the things that I would like to see is that not only do you have the sign off on today's review date and adoption, and there's a box here that says next review or something, but you actually, in the policy, in that box, you say next expected review. So that you know what day you're supposed to be looking at these, or what year you're supposed to be looking at. So, because that helps inform the work of those people that come after us. It's a bit of succession planning.
And I've seen some where they do the financial policies in particular annually,
Yes,
because they're more likely to be
right.
changes in law there. But yeah, I
The
like that.
financial policies might also be something that that your finance committee has to be involved in. So this is what I've got so far. See if any other words perk up, because we're going to throw this into the ChatGPT bucket. Are you guys fine with that process? Are you okay with it?
I'm kind of a human chat GTP.
Okay.
If you throw a bunch of words at me, I can help you sort out how it sounds just right.
Okay.
We can do that.
Yeah.
So I haven't used it myself, but I have been in committees that have done what you're suggesting.
Uh-huh.
And I like it. Sometimes it comes back on this simple thing, but sometimes more with a, recommendation 5 is from no place in the world.
Right. Yeah.
That you throw
And
back.
that's why I never think about using it all by itself. I start the process, it plays with it, but then it comes back to me or us, because this is, I don't know about you, but I sometimes find it easier to be an editor rather than creator.
Well, it can be kind of like there are 4 of us here, a 5th person who's looking at it.
Yeah.
And kind of
Oh,
quickly
the
comes
filter,
back.
yeah.
Oh,
Exactly.
okay, I didn't think of that phrasing. That's great. This is stupid.
It's always good to explore different ways to phrase things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so on the what, I've got, we review, we draft, we recommend. What else do we do?
Well, I don't know how to get this, but maybe chat. The review,
Review, draft, and recommend.
the draft and the recommend don't just come from the review, which is looking at work we already have, but it may also, maybe you add suggest that it may not come out of the work that's been done.
Yeah. To me, drafting is 2 things. Drafting is something brand new, and it's drafting a revision. Revise, there's the word.
Yeah. I think if you draft, why should get both of those.
Yeah. Review and revise are different.
Yes. So draft, review, revise, recommend. Can't draft come up, start with an R. Everything else is starting with
I
an
don't
R.
like the alliteration.
I know, don't worry about it. Okay, so then the how. We do it in a timely manner. Do we do it periodically? Do we do it on a schedule? Do we need anything like that in in our mission?
I would like to go annually and then as needed through the year in our, because kind of in our strategic planning, we're kind of going to look at how often we need to do things.
Mhm.
That will happen Monday.
Now, you might want to do it annually. The committee that's next year may want to do it monthly. So
Right.
rather than tie that down to the finite, maybe it's on a regular basis.
We can say that. Can say that.
I kind of like periodic because that seems to me you can set, certain things, the financial policies are looked at in, the other policies are looked at in 3 years. The meetings are once or twice a year, depending on the workload. But by saying periodic, I don't think you're saying every now and then.
Right.
If the mood strikes.
So periodic and timely.
Because to me, periodic, if you don't define what the period is, then work is meaning. So timely, periodic and timely,
I think that works.
Okay.
because timely kind of goes in with contemporaneous. It's too big a word for what we're doing. But yes. So, yeah, that would work for me.
And
Okay.
timely means you don't find a policy with a date on it 20 years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not.
Because
It gives
we
an
may end up
expectation of,
creating a policy on doing policies.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. That has some details.
It's like one of the places I worked with had a committee on committees. Anyway, okay, so now the why, let's look at that again. Why do we do that? So that the agency
somebody dropped the key to the rush.
and the board can operate with consistency, can operate according to law, operate in the public interest with transparency.
I would say consistency and transparency within the law in the public interest.
Is there anything else that we need to put in the why?
Two things I wanted to say at the outset of this meeting,
Sure.
that didn't happen,
Well,
so I missed my chance.
no, you didn't. I'll open it.
I'll take the chance now, is one thing. For me in approaching this, there's one thing that, and I said this the other day, is, the one thing I've always learned about policies whenever I was involved in policies are dynamic, fluid, they change.
Yes.
So what we write now doesn't have to be right. So we don't have to really get it perfect, because it will change. And the other thing is I kind of adopt this philosophy of, we're not trying to make necessarily changes or improvements. We're trying to enhance our process and to have that attitude of enhancement. Because if I say I'm going to improve the policies, then that makes it look like I know more than you and I know better how to do it. I don't want to have that attitude. I just want to have the attitude of, can I help us all do it a little bit more than what we were?
And I can see where you're coming from on that. Where I think we stand today, though, is we have all of these things that we have been in existence for we don't know how long. To me, my first responsibility, I think, is reading the policy and saying, does this reflect the way we are acting or working right now? If it doesn't, then we need to change the policy wording to reflect what we're doing. The second part of that is, and I'm not sure with playing catch up as we are right now, that we take a policy and we say, oh, but the board could work better. So let's rewrite this and let's change the way the board, or let's change the way we are currently doing it. Because I'm not sure we're at the spot where, unless we know that we're doing it wrong, outside the law or something like that, that we're not right at the point where we're saying, hey, board, we got this policy and we think we can do it better. And so everybody has to change everything right now. I'm sort of, right now, we're at catch up. Let's make sure that we have a policy for everything we do and that the policies reflect the way we're working now.
Well, yeah, and in the whole process, we're gonna have to use wisdom, judgment, and discernment in order to decide what our work will be, and that's fine. I'm not against that. I'm just saying that I don't want to adopt an attitude. For me personally, I don't want to adopt an attitude of, oh, hey, I can do it better than somebody else.
Oh, yeah, and
Because I don't want to come across that
No.
way in the meetings. I don't want to come across that way to the staff
Right.
or to other board members.
and I think
That's
that,
all.
yeah, I almost think that if, let's say we're reading through a policy or we're in a meeting and we think, you know, it would work a lot better if we change the policy to this, rather than this committee drafting something new. I would think the better process would be to bring the subject to the board for discussion. Do you all think we could do this better? And here's some ways. And which way would you like to make sure that the policy committee writes the policy, drafts the policy? So, and that way you get everybody involved, and also we don't know all of the possible outcomes or interactions with other things, you know, what are they, something consequences,
Unintended.
thank you. I couldn't think of the word, unintended consequences.
So I don't disagree with you.
Okay.
Pretty much saying,
I
you know,
think
just
we're all
different
there.
parts of the same thing, but I want to add a couple things. I hesitated to put this word in the mission because I don't think it belongs here, but I think it belongs in our first chunk of work.
Okay,
And that's that I would like to see us efficiently go through the policies we have, because we could take ages to
Yeah.
go through those. And I think we need to go through them fairly quickly for the first cut. And as we do, I think we need to do a little triage. There might be some things we think, you know, we need to add a sentence to that and it's good to go. Or it's not great, we could improve the process, but not now. So there can be some things that we find, we think, oh, this is a problem. It isn't in conformance with the law or whatever, and we need to be doing something about that. That needs to go on a list, but we might not want to get bogged down in that right
and
now.
you're talking about our process.
Yes,
Yes.
and then I was like in group processes that are facilitated, when a facilitator, is a way to keep from getting bogged down and stuff, does a parking lot.
Yes.
You know? So that's a great idea. Can't do it right now outside of our role, or we don't have the time.
Right.
So I'm gonna put that down. So we might reach some things to think that this is not urgent. But it is work that the board needs to do, or the finance committee needs to do, or staff, something.
Right.
So let's keep a list of those things. And there's some things that probably have some urgency and they're not going to bog us down. Let's go ahead and try and clean that up as we're going.
Exactly.
But so we're trying to be efficient. We're triaging. We are going to end up with some work to recommend, some future work. And we might say, on this list of future work, we think we would be happy to work on that next. Or we think that might be the finance committee, but what do you all think? So we might make recommendations on next steps on that, and to say, either as we do a report out, we have started working on this policy, a little bit of that policy. Stop us now if you don't want us to do it, because we're on it. Or just say at the end when we finish, and this is the report of our recommendations, the work we've done, our
Right.
recommendation. And note that for these 4 policies, we are recommending some fairly significant changes. Not for the other things that we encountered like that, that's on the list of future
Right.
work.
Right. No, I agree with all of that. And I think as you've gone through these, what you have seen is there's a lot of policies there it's been years since there's been a signature on the policy, or some of them don't even have signatures. So that if it doesn't have a signature, that tells me it was never formally adopted, or it didn't go through the process. I think that this work has sort of not been done at the most professional level. Yes, I would say in the last few years. It hasn't been followed through to the end. They maybe did the work, but then they didn't get it to the board to do the adoption.
And there's no way to know.
There's
Because
no,
some of it's old enough that we don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that we don't know. So, and yeah.
So that's good. I think what you're saying is we don't need to polish it right away. We need to make sure it takes in place and we.
And look for
Some
the
of
real
that,
trouble.
some of that will just be, like, if it's something they're gonna finance, maybe they need to polish it up, so. Yeah, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I would say that as we list things that are sort of bigger work and we think we're maybe not the group, we might still send some recommendations with that, that we think this sounds like work for the finance committee. We did note these things that concerned us, or we noticed that such and such is missing and you might think of this as an
And
addition.
the finance committee is the expert on the financial processes. But as far as I know, we don't currently have a finance committee. So,
I would hope the treasurer would know.
and I'm the treasurer.
I know. I would hope that there isn't one sneaking around
I'm,
and hasn't
Yeah.
brought you in.
Okay, so I'm writing down some next steps so that.
Can we ask Sarah if there's a finance? She knows everything.
Is there one?
Not that I know.
No, I don't think there is.
They haven't met since you started.
So I'm gonna, SDAO. Get a template. Okay, so would you say we've done enough discussion on mission? And I think we're still discussing bylaw work. I also see the possibility that rather than the 3 of us coming together and all together poring over every single one in detail, that maybe we split up some of the tasks and maybe chapter 1, 2, 3, you review and you bring back, here's what I think needs to happen. But we'll start off, I think prioritizing the work, we need to figure out which are the most important policies that we need to deal with. And I think the board made it clear they wanted us to look at the finance policies first, right?
I think that's a good idea for the seeing size up part of the triage, let's look at the lay of the land, where we're at. And we can break that work up into individuals and come back and discuss it as a group. That would work for me.
Right. So,
Because it should be, well, I expect it to be obvious to me if there's something lacking or something that, if there's something that I just cannot understand what we're talking about, then that's something we need to address. Because really, the average person needs to be able to walk in here and read our policies and say, hey, I can kind of understand what they're talking about.
exactly.
Because if it's too esoteric, it's not going to do
You're
anything.
absolutely right. So let me just tell you, this book is what I got in July as a new commissioner. It has all these tabs. These are all policies. I don't know yet whether what's here duplicates page by page what's here. I actually got this in two different sets of paper, if you will. I got some in the binder and some that were just loose. So I collated all the numbers together. Kathy and I, because Kathy had been a board chair before, years ago, and you will see that there are some policies that are signed off by Kathy. So Kathy and I actually sat down and looked at the policies one by one. Every tab here are ones that Kathy and I said something had to be done. And it might have been just a signature. Okay. So what we know at this point is that there's possibly 3 different places where policies have been stored. I don't know what Sarah has found. You found this binder.
Right.
In the files, the digital files, whatever, did you find something that just said policies and had everything?
It looks like they were kept maybe it's different files
Okay.
electronically. And there are, I can show you what it looks like, but there are a lot. It was hard for me to tell what had been up. And I didn't see something that said, this is, the final updated board policy manual.
Current as of this date.
Right.
Yes.
There were lots of drafts and.
Right.
So.
And did you see that there was any record or place where anything that is signed went? I mean, once a policy was signed, can you tell what happened to it? Did they keep a hard copy of all signed policies? Do we need to maybe assume it doesn't matter whether they were signed or not? We're going to look at them and update them.
Just this morning, I found a binder that has some original signed copies,
Ah,
not all,
right.
but some, and then some photocopy. And it appears that binder that you have, the thing
Yes.
that I have matches that.
Okay.
And it has some, like the newer one that has some of them.
Okay.
But that's kind of the most complete.
Okay.
And we'll keep looking.
Right. At some point we have to stop looking and figure this is our starting point, and we're not, because if you keep finding old stuff, it keeps just giving us more work. That's not the right way to say it, but it sort of dilutes everything. And so we just need to say, okay, this is everything we have. And we're starting from almost from scratch. And we're gonna just make sure that every one of them is done.
So I do think that we need to all be working from the same.
Yeah, oh, I totally agree with you.
But I think at some time, maybe it's now, maybe it's a little ways out, you get to stop looking.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that put my stuff together for my taxes, and I opened a file and found a document that I need for my taxes in the wrong file. And I thought,
I'm not.
what else have I been
Yeah,
file?
yeah, uh-huh.
But I think you're still gonna find something that you pull and think, maybe we don't have it at all, maybe it's an earlier version of something we have. And I think that you can still bring that forward and either, look at it and just say, a couple of changes, but virtually the same, or it's substantially different or new, and bring it to us as a committee and say, should we do something with this? Or that's just old stuff and it's superseded by it. And I wouldn't want you by yourself to feel like you needed to not look at something or to make your own decision about, is it worthwhile? Because maybe there's maybe there was a paragraph taken out of something that we would say, you know what? That's worthwhile and accurate. We might want to reword it, but let's think about that. But we could also, as we triage, say, that's in later work, right? We're not going to worry about it.
And the thing that makes the work a little bit more complex and confusing is that in the past, rather than taking policy number one and keeping all the changes, showing the revisions and the history all in the same document, what happened was you got policy number one here with a date, and then policy number one here with another date. And you don't know whether they're the same or not because you don't have the history of policy number one. And that is something that I would like to see that we as a committee institute, that all the policies maintain the history. Now, what
All the revisions.
all the
And
revisions,
yeah.
yes. So that if you've got policy number one, you have a document that shows all the revisions, and then you've got your final document that is signed, etc. And so you can see the history of what happened.
I think it's an excellent idea. Follow the legislative format. That's really easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
At the bottom of all the legislation we have in Oregon, there's a history at the bottom.
Right.
If there's been any changes over the years, code says go here, look at the,
Mhm.
and that is a good idea. Because I think that the other thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that all of our, I'm sorry, the caffeine just kicked in. If I talk too fast, tell me to slow down.
Okay.
I think that all of the policies that we have need to have current authorization.
Yes.
So there might be some that are so old that even though they were signed, they really
You're out.
really need to be updated and signed again. And some of them that are unsigned definitely have to be signed.
Yes.
So I think that that's part of our work that we would, at the end of a year, I would hope that we would have everything formatted and brought together consistently so that you can navigate your way through them and one refers to the other in a meaningful manner. And that everything has been brought forward to the board and signed, authorized, and then,
Right.
if we need to polish beyond that or certain departments need to polish their policies, that can be done. It doesn't have to be done right away.
Right.
One note that I wanted to say now, so I could just get rid of it, not worry. I would like to make sure that we agree on the format for citations for statutes. That we go with the APA style or MLS style, we'd be consistent. Because as I read through these, it's not consistent. So we need to pick a format because everything that we do is governed by statute. So we need to make sure.
I don't think that everything is necessarily based on statute. But I do think that having a consistent format is really important. I don't particularly care what it is. I would like it to be easy for the recorder to use and easy for somebody to look for those notices, the citations. I also, you didn't say this specifically, but I want to say something about it to be sure, because I have seen where organizations, anything they delete, they take out and put at the bottom, and I find that really cumbersome and unnecessary. As long as we're keeping a copy of, an older copy,
Right.
And we have the current one only in whatever the book is. If we needed to find, I think it's more than we need to deal with, but if we needed to find legislative history, that's a way to go by looking at it. So I don't think we're going to need to do that very often. Hopefully, we won't be sued too much. But I do want them, and you said this a little earlier, that they need to be in plain language
Yes.
and readable. And, we can make it, we can say something in a paragraph or two, or we can say something in 40 pages or 50 pages. And the simple The simpler we can say it, easier, more accessible language, the better. And that's one of the things about having a consistent format, consistent way of doing citations. It makes it easier for us.
I worked for a hospital district in Washington, and that was one of the things that Washington came up with. I can't remember the year, around 2000 something, 2002 maybe. It's that all Washington hospital district policies had to be written at fifth grade level. So they hired me to go through and make what was written at a graduate degree level, written at fifth grade level, and I did that. So it is important that we make sure that the language we use
Yeah.
and the style we use is consumable by the general public.
So I want to move us on to doing some work. Not that we haven't been doing work, but I'm thinking that what we possibly should do at this point is, first of all, talk about what do we want the policies of this committee to be? Because that's nothing in here. And let's talk about how we want policies formatted. Because we can go ahead and do all the work, but then if we don't have the format already in place, we're sort of jumping back. So those are our first two things, and then we get into what the policies are. And I'm thinking, since all three of us have this book, this is the one that Sarah gave us, that this is where we as a group start from. And as I go back, I will break things out of what I got 6 months ago and see, okay, is some of this the same, or are there other pieces there? And I can bring that back. But if we start off with, because we've been talking about it so far, what do we want our underlying principles? What do we want to be the principles of this committee? And I think one of the principles that I already heard was writing at the fifth grade level. Simple language. We want standard formatting.
And I think that we should just agree.
And we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
What that formatting.
Yeah.
We want to maintain historical record of the change history. What else do we want? Because these will be kind of like the principles we work from as we're working on this stuff.
I think we should add in there that what Penny had said about working efficiently in a timely manner, so that this doesn't get drug out forever. Ask Sarah.
Sure.
When you gave me this, I wasn't sure if this was any different than the orientation manual that you gave. Is this more than?
Right, and apologies about that. Yes. That binder in Commissioner York, it's the same, that is the same as what's in the binders. That's the most updated version. The one that was in your orientation manual that I handed out to you has an older version.
So this is the one I got at my first meeting.
Right.
And this is the one that you gave me a couple days ago in between the two.
The one that I gave you during the tour is the most updated.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same as
And non-white binder.
yeah.
So what was the date that you finalized it in its current?
I believe it was 2025.
No, I mean,
Oh, she did this like 2 weeks ago.
Okay,
I just found it.
She
Yeah.
found it, she
I
didn't
just-
put it together.
No, I
She
didn't.
found these on the shelf.
Right.
So,
as this,
Yes, well, like that.
Yeah.
There were three, I found three like that. And, the third one, Commissioner Maria has. So I found three. I took the contents out, I scanned it, and I made several more copies of that. So what's in there is this,
is the,
and it's the thing
the
that you
both
have.
three thing.
Yeah,
And how do you know that this one is newer than that?
I looked through them all. So that one has, like, there are several policies in the newer one that were like updated in 2024.
Okay.
And the same version is in that older one, but it's from 2020. Not the same version, the same policy. But there's a 2018.
might have some different work.
Right,
Okay,
yeah,
And you, and unless you look at the two of them, like Kathy and I did, you don't know what the wording has changed. What is different between these two? So you have to read this in detail, read this,
so if I put a date on this one,
yes.
what date would I?
I believe, 20,
Why don't we just say February 2026? This
That works for me.
current in February 2026,
Because that's our start.
because that's our start
That's-
point.
I want to be able to refer to the edition that way.
Yeah,
So-
this one said updated
Good.
policies 23 to 25. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add on to that. Current jump off.
and I will say I did go back and check like meeting. So I know that there was a board meeting where they did in fact update the policies in 2024.
And the only way that we know that is that the policy would have been signed. I don't think that things that got approved by the board at a meeting always got signed.
Right.
And so we just have to assume that everything is going to be re-signed. So there's another guiding principle for our work right this minute. That's, so right now, assume every policy needs review and re-sign.
And can we say we're going to start with, say this word and feel free to edit. We're going to start with a comprehensive review and then the triage piece. So in other words, we're not.
So by comprehensive, do you mean like high level review?
I mean, we're going to go over every single policy.
Yes.
Yes, a complete review. That will end with recommendations for changes.
Right. Let me take that one step further. In this first run, where we do a complete review, what we're checking for is that the policy reflects current reality. We're not going to suggest changes to that reality yet. First run is, does the policy reflect the way we're working right now?
And so I think on that bullet point, defining what we mean by a complete.
Start with complete review. Does existing policy, because part of it is we're going to see gaps. It's those gaps that we can say, this is the way it's supposed to be, which may be, like public meeting law, there's gaps.
So if the policies have to be relevant, that's the word I would use, then would there be a situation where we would keep a remedial policy?
But why would you have a review?
Well, just in the interest of history.
So talk a little bit more about that. Explain what you mean by
A policy that's no longer active, but was fully authorized by the board. That we are going to put something else over the top of.
So, first of all, you have to define, do we really believe that all of these were authorized by the board? If it doesn't have a signature, I can't make that assumption.
Right, and I'm just talking about policies
Okay.
that were part. So we wouldn't keep them in force, but we would refer to where they could be referenced.
If you're not using a policy, you say this policy is no longer relevant, or this policy does not reflect reality. Why would I want to refer to it except to say the board used to do that?
I'll tell you why.
Okay,
Because if that policy led to some form of malfeasance that does not have an expired statute of limitations, you might have to show that.
then you're talking about sort of a semi-dead file.
Arc.
An archive. All right. Yeah, no, and I think that goes along with what I said earlier. We
Yeah.
do want to archive all of our changes. Yeah.
So I think we have the document right now with the existing policies. They may or may not have been officially authorized, but they are the official policies.
Right.
And so this document is like the most recent historical document. And anything that's before, I think, Sarah, that you keep those too. You need to figure out an archival system for that. And then we're going to come up with at the end of our process. That's why I wanted to differentiate the process we're going to use right now, which will be different than the ongoing process we're going to use, because we have to get through this whole thing.
Right. And I have a question about that. This is process for us. As we work through this, and let's say we work through chapter number 1, and we're now working on chapter 2, or we have we worked through chapter number 1, and do we want to take the work we've already done to the board, get it signed off, and get it over here? Or do we want to get everything done and take the whole ball of wax to the board? Which is your preference? I know which one is my preference.
I would rather take units to the board during the process and then present a finding. And
They don't need to know the process.
well, not,
So we're gonna have a final
well,
recommendation.
as we accomplish certain things, like if we wrote a finance policy that was something needed to be voted on, then we'll just take that. I don't know, what's your preference?
Let me hear your opinion.
So, yeah, I would like to go through this quickly. And going through quickly means not doing really any rewriting, except we encounter the one that this isn't how we're doing. Yeah, correct it. And so we're going to come up with a list of recommendations, and they're going to say, yes, great, go back and do this. So I would rather take it all, with the exception that as we complete each section, if there's one that we think is a real problem, that it is the current existing policy, that we can make a recommendation on that. Our intent is to go through the whole thing and come back with recommendations, but that we leave a little asterisk for ourselves that if we see something that is truly
Non-compliant.
non-compliant, something like that, that we can pull that out and bring that forward.
I don't think I want to recommend to the board to sign something that I know is non-compliant. just because I marked it that we're gonna look at it again. I would rather bring it to the board and say, here's what we got, it's non-compliant, here's what we recommend. I don't think it's gonna be like major changes
I'm not saying we take anything to the board.
until the whole ball of wax is put together. I think,
I'm not saying that we recommend them signing anything that we think is faulty.
okay,
Oh,
so
no.
I'm hearing wrong then.
I am saying my preference at this moment is not to take a chunk, go through that whole thing thoroughly, bring it forward and make recommendations and sign it there. I think that takes us a long time to get through. My preference is we're doing basically a scan of them all and setting aside more work that we have to do, and then we're going to bring. But that if we encounter something that the three of us say it's, this is not compliant with the law, let's pull it out, take it to the board, make recommendations for changes now, so that we can have the board approve a revised policy that is compliant.
At the very least, just alert everybody, this is not compliant. And then we'll be.
Okay,
Because I want to avoid any instance where we want realize that we have a non-compliant policy and not act on it immediately.
and I have to tell you, having read through all this stuff, I don't know that anything hit me as deep trouble or trouble. I do know that there are some wording that maybe shouldn't be there. I'm leaning towards, okay, we do a first review and we pull all the ones out that are fine the way they are, and you take that batch and you take it to the board and say, these are fine, sign them, and we get those out of our way. And then, and as we continue then to the ones that have the issues. And then maybe we take 2 or 3 to each board meeting. Because remember, the board isn't gonna, they don't redo our work. My vision is if I take something forward, they're gonna see the original and they're gonna see our amended change. And then they ask some questions. But they're not gonna redo the work.
Right, you want to do work. That's why we're here.
That is not how I work.
Okay,
When I'm an elected official, I vote on something that I agree with. And before I do that, because it doesn't have to be the perfect penny policy, I want to have the conversation. Sometimes it's minimal because there isn't that much of a disagreement among the electeds. But I want us to have duly considered that before I cast a vote, because I cast votes.
and I said this wrong.
I cast votes against recommendations.
Okay, so I said it wrong because I agree with you. I read everything, and I'm not going to sign off on something or vote for something if I haven't had the chance to question it. And I'm not saying the board doesn't have a chance to question it, because they're going to get this packet of what we say. This group appears to reflect reality as it is today, and we recommend that they be signed. But I'm going to be expecting that every single member of the board read through that packet and they're going to come back and ask questions. Well, maybe this doesn't. But I'm not going to say, hey, on my say so, you sign it. No way, because I don't operate that way, just like you don't. I totally agree with what you just said. But if we can pare down our work by finding everything that is reflective of today's reality, put that before the board and say, this all appears to be reflective of today's reality. Take a look at it, and we recommend that this be signed. And then that's the start of the new version, if you will. So they still have to read it. They still have to discuss it.
So I'm gonna suggest something.
Yes.
I'm gonna suggest that we pick one section of it first.
Mhm.
We all go through it, we come back, and we talk about those, and then figure out how we're gonna bring things to the
Okay.
board. Because we may, I may look at those and think, oh yeah, absolutely, there's nothing in here that's a problem for me,
Mhm.
except this one, and we all agree, take that separately, it needs to be. But,
Yeah, I don't have.
I think, I don't know that I would be able to vote on a policy that reflected what's being done now. And I thought it was really important.
Oh, we're not, well, the thing is, I don't think I'm saying we want to adopt poor policy. But, and that's my phrase, reflecting reality. I don't think there's anything in here. Let me just.
I mean, I went through them, I skimmed them all, and I made a few notes on a few of them. Says something that jumped out at me. I was not looking for, is it being done currently? Because in a lot of cases, I don't know. I don't know a lot of it. I feel like I know more, a lot more. And I wasn't looking for, is this something I could have put my name? I was looking for, are there obvious things that jump out to me that are missing or need some deep conversation? But until I go through them with that, or some of them, with that test of this reflects the current state, until I go through a chunk of them with that test, I don't know whether or not I'm going to be able to vote for it. Good with that test.
Is your concern then that this policy committee is gonna recommend something to the board that they're not gonna be able to review or have influence over?
No.
Okay,
I think what I hear your concern is that we're gonna recommend to the board a policy that does reflect how things are working now, but isn't a good policy.
And that I would not want my name attached to it.
Right.
Public record.
Right. And I don't want us to do that either. That wouldn't go before. That's something that we would take and revise, and we would recommend our revision. I'm just saying the first cut, it reflects reality and it's good policy or it's fine policy. Basically get the low hanging fruit, I guess. Get rid of those.
I get that. But I would have to go through 10 of them to have a sense of, would there be one, I would think, needs to be pulled? Or are there 9 that are going to be okay?
Oh, no. I'm not saying I give you a sheet of these and you say okay to the whole sheet. We're still gonna take them individually. We're not gonna say your yes vote applies to 12 things. We're gonna say your yes vote applies to number 1. Okay, now we're gonna talk about number 2. Now no, I would never want to do that.
I am more comfortable with us going through a set of them now,
Sure.
our homework, and to come back together, or by email, whatever, and say, yeah, that's a great process. We're gonna pull a few, we're gonna take most of them. Obviously, we want everybody to read them, we want everybody to read their comments. We're gonna take individual votes on each one. I'm not comfortable with at this time until I go through some, not all, but some of
That's
them,
no problem.
and say, yeah, that's gonna work fine.
okay.
Or we bring them together as a group and I vote against 90%.
So what I think,
Well, we're not going to bring them as a group to recommend if you don't agree with 90%, because we have to agree first. It's not my recommendation, it's our recommendation. And if you don't vote to recommend, we're not gonna recommend. So, I mean, that's why you have the committee, is we do the work and we have to come into agreement. And I would never put something before the board and say, adopt this if I didn't agree with adopting it. And I can't do that if you don't agree with adopting it.
Okay, so we back up a little bit and maybe I misunderstood something earlier. Are we looking at us each taking the same sets of them and coming back and discussing them?
What we need to think about. I mean, we can work through this just page by page together. Before we do any independent work, I think it really would help so that we get to know how each other thinks. And we also get some practice to do a few of these together.
That's great. That makes
Okay,
sense.
all right. But the other thing, as you're talking, and I said this a little earlier, is I know that we get 8 hours of free consulting time with SDAO. I know that SDAO does policy manuals out there, etc. And I'm thinking that maybe one of the recommendations we make is that we would like to have an SDAO consultant look at what we have now, tell us how it's deficient, and also, I mean, because they can provide their template, but if they also can tell us what's deficient here.
No, I think that's helpful.
Okay, because I know, like, my other district, one of the things they didn't have was a meeting policy. And SDAO has meeting policy. And you can take that and you don't drop it in without looking at it. But you tailor it. Yeah. And so, because I don't think any of us, and even all three of us together, have everything we need to bring to the table to be the experts on this and to make sure we don't forget.
Well, it's great. It sounds like they may well have a model policy manual.
Yes.
And if they can go through that and say, oh, you're missing these, this one is way outdated because of such and such, that would save us time.
There's one, I think it's their meeting policy that if you take it and you adopt it, you get a percentage discount on your insurance rates. So, yeah.
what I want to find out is if in the beginning, if SDAO has anything that we can glean from online resources or whatever, without doing one-on-one consulting, burning up some of our hours.
Well, and we can't do that without the board's permission.
Right. But if we could get, like if they have a model policy manual that they can say, oh, download this and go through it, and give you guidelines.
So,
That would be a great place to start.
do you have access to the internet right now? Can you go to SDAO
Excuse me.
and just do a search on model board policy?
But also get back to what you were saying, Penny. What I think I'm hearing you say is that you might feel more comfortable going through a number of these to get a feeling for how apt you are at assessing them before we do them in chunks and assign them out.
Well, I'm happy with us going through a few of them now and seeing that.
Okay.
One other side thing that will be helpful, this is a Sarah thing, is to have a table of contents that has the sections and each of the
Exactly.
It's really
Exactly.
a lot easier to even talk about it, to see what you have and what you don't.
I'm thinking what was given to me, that was one of the notes I made, is this needs a true table with contents. So while she's looking at that, let's just take B101.
Hey, that's the first one.
Now, what I was given in July for B101 had an approved date of July 26, 2018, and no signature. That's all I was given. What we just got from Sarah for B101 has an approved date of January 25th, and it's got Debbie Schmidt's signature on it. And I don't know how different each one of these might be. They might be the same. So let's just look at it. Does this reflect what we're doing? The Sunset Empire Transportation Board of Commissioners shall consist of 7 members, each serving 4-year staggered terms. No person shall be eligible to be a board member who is not at the time of election or appointment a registered voter within the district. Commissioners shall maintain their residency and voter registration throughout their service as a commission. And I have to tell you, just thinking about formatting, I don't like those 3 different thoughts in the same paragraph. I would go 1, 2, 3, because they're all different conditions. But that's a formatting thing. That's not a policy thing. And so the second bullet, or the second point, that before entering shall take and subscribe to an oath that the commissioner will honestly, faithfully, and impartially perform duties as a commissioner, disclose any in conflict of interest. To me, conflict of interest is a different subject. And I would move that out of the paragraph. I'm nitpicking at this point.
I would tell you what I would do on this, because this is just board elections, okay? It's really simple. I would just copy the statute in here and cite the resource, and that's all we need.
You know what? When I looked at it back in July, I wrote follow state law.
I think that's all we need. That's all we need this is how we're gonna do it, because this is absolutely described by state law. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Right.
We're not gonna do it any different. We don't have anything to add to it.
And if the state law changed, your policy is still okay.
And we could just add to it
Right.
and use our formatting for history if we need to add something to it in the future, if state law changes.
The other thing, though, is when you get to number 3, you're not talking about state law. You're talking about how do we arrange our board? And that is true board policy. That is something. And so, the board this says it's a policy about board elections. It doesn't say it's a policy about how people get elected or put on the board. It's really about how is the board arranged.
This was quoted from what I read in the OGC manual.
What was quoted from?
Number 3 is written just like it is now.
Shall elect 3 officers?
But the manual isn't law.
No, manual is not law.
Right.
OGEC does not say we
Right.
have to do a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary treasurer.
Right.
That's not OGEC. But definitely this policy is really dealing with 2 different things. One, how does somebody even get elected or appointed to the board? And 2, how does the board arrange itself?
So One thing that I'm familiar with, and when I say that, I go back to what I'm familiar with, and I may or may not think it's a good idea, but, is that policies often start with a little introduction
agree.
that says, what's the purpose of this policy? And
Exactly.
sort of what are the parameters of it? I mean, if we wanted, it seems to me that board elections is here and board organization is a different policy,
Right.
ideally. And the elections,
And the elections have nothing to do with we don't have policy about state elections
Right.
or about regional elections. But we do have policy on how vacancies are filled. But the state also tells you how, in some respects, how to fill your vacancies.
and I
But
think,
I agree with you. I like having something, and that's again, talking about the format that we want in the policy. And maybe we need to go back to that before we get
We
to
need a
this.
synopsis at the top. The policy below.
Yeah, and it's not really a synopsis, it's what is the purpose of this policy? And that helps you understand and guide you as to, gee, what the policy even says it is.
and I think that there are some things that may be very clearly delineated in law that are still worthwhile to spell out entirely here. Because if you go and say, so somebody resigned and how do we do this? It's nice to have that there. I don't, well, I mean, what I noticed in number 2, for example, and I realized that I and we are sort of zooming out to big stuff and zooming into little
Yeah,
details at the
You're
same
right,
time.
you're right.
And that takes a lot of time.
Mhm.
That when I've taken an oath, we're given a printed oath and you
read
that,
it.
you read it. And so this doesn't say quotes. It says have to subscribe to an oath that the commissioner, rather than will take this oath, quote. And I find that easier.
I
to
agree
do.
with
You don't have to sort through, is it in the second person? Is it in
right.
the,
And also, I think that the sentence that adds on and disclose any conflict of interest, that's a whole different subject.
yeah, unless
That's
there is something in ORS 267 that says the oath.
And this is what it's supposed to
That,
be.
you
Yeah,
know, if,
so we have to look at that, don't we?
Yeah.
Okay. So before we go further, did you find a template from SDAO?
I found some sample board policies about specific things,
Okay.
like a board duty policy or sample public meeting policy. Is that, so I didn't find a just here's a general, but I just kind of
Or
looked in
a general template. Okay, so let's worry about that. When I ask Shanta about that.
I might have just,
No, you're
No.
fine. You're fine. You're fine.
And this speaks to the format too, because and forgive me because I just completely forgot which is which, but how you list the statute in there refers to whether or not you're paraphrasing or quoting correct. So the parentheses means one thing, and I think the parentheses meant that you paraphrased it. If you quote it directly, then you just write it up. I might have that reversed,
Okay, so I'm gonna
but that's part of the
I'm
format.
gonna ask Sarah as our staffer. Could you please find out how do you quote ORS in your policies, and what does the different ways of quoting denote?
So what I'm talking about is the APA style
Yeah.
for legislative citation.
Right.
The MLA style is different.
And what is MLA?
The MLA style uses footnotes instead, and I think that would be cumbersome.
I don't want footnotes.
Okay, so then,
But if you can, because Sarah, you're gonna end up transcribing all the stuff. And so finding out the right way to do it now would be a good thing. So let's back up then. Let's decide the format that we want. I like the top box. Do you guys like the top box? So we've got a box that says the title, Board of Commissioners, Board Elections. That's the title of the policy. We've got a policy number. We've got a date approved. And then the board chair's signature. Now, the date approved would denote to me what day did the board approve it.
Meeting date, action was taken.
Right.
That way,
Do you want to change the wording from date approved to board approval?
I think that's better.
Okay, let's change that to board approval. And then we've got the two lines actually where 4 spaces for reviewed and date. Now, what that doesn't say is, was it revised? Reviewed sort of assumes that we looked at it and
We
everything's
may
fine.
not change it.
Yeah, exactly. So I would put maybe reviewed, revised.
that would put board approval. If it's reviewed and revised, then it needs to be approved by the board.
Right.
Again,
So are we then saying that, and I think there's not enough room to have 4 of them. I think we should have a whole line that says reviewed or revised, it gets and approved, and then the chair signature, all on one line.
just change the form.
Right. And the board approval date that's up in the upper right corner is the original approval. So then you can see the history going down.
Like the form that it is up top, I think where we're questioning is down below.
Is this making sense to you, Sarah?
I think so. So this is unchanged and you're talking about,
Right. The line where it says review, that's going to be one whole line. And you're going to have boxes to check reviewed, revised, approved. And then the date and the board chair signature. And that'll take one whole line up. Is that making sense for you, Ken?
So when I look at date approved up in the right hand,
Mm-hmm.
I assume that's the most recent.
I do too, but if you do that using this system, it means that you're going to change that date all the time and you're really not going to have the history, because where do you move that date to say it was originated?
Unless, forget that it's up at the top and just think about a few
Rose.
rows, thank you. A few rows. And the first time it's approved, new policy, it has board chair signature approved, board approved, date. And then it comes
I think I
back
know where you're going.
a few years later, and let's say that there are revisions. So a new row is inserted above it that says revised board chair signature date.
Right.
Board.
So we get rid of this box completely. Okay, so Sarah, I like that. So that one long line is going to say originated and the date. And then board approval and the signature. That can go all on one line. So then, and then under it, just to be on the safe side, I would say next review scheduled. So there's a date there.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I think that that could be taken care of in a policy about policies.
Okay.
And so rather than having to do it every time and go through to see what's due.
We can put that on this thing that I was writing. That's part of our principles is. So this year, let's say, we call this originated. And in 3 years, we come back, we look at it, and there's some revisions. Okay. So you insert a box above the originated line, and you say reviewed, revised, and all that, so that your oldest date is here. You're revising it again, so your new date comes here, and then 5 years later, you're gonna put a new date here. But we can see down the line what's the history.
So it's in reverse chronological order,
Thank you.
like a resume.
Thank you. Yeah. And that's what we'll have to put in our policy, that this is the formatting policy.
Okay, I would go against that because it doesn't follow. I would rather follow established formats that are commonly used. So if I go back to legislative policy, if you look at a piece of legislation, the adoption of that legislation is on the top. If there's a revision, that's down below. And if they change something significantly, then that legislation gets a new number. So
We
I
can't
mean,
do that with policies.
Okay.
You don't renumber your policies.
but
Yeah,
it would not be consistent with established principles that,
that's established principles for policy writing in corporations. Because I know
Okay.
that's what I've used in,
so you,
Yeah.
the most recent at the top and then down to the origination of the policy down below.
Yeah.
To do that all across, all.
Right.
Okay, that's fine.
Right.
As long as we're consistent and you can.
consistency is the word.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to turn to this page and say, okay, this is what it was written. And if I need to look at the original one, I can look up the meeting minutes from the original one and say, hey, this is what they're
Right.
like.
Yes. And
Okay,
he just makes a really good point that the date that we say it was adopted or approved,
Generally do approve
Approved.
policy.
the date that it was approved has to match a meeting date. So that
Or
you can go back to the
yeah.
minutes. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know that that's what has been done.
Oh, okay,
I don't know what that
Yeah.
date was. I don't know if that was a meeting date, or if that was the date that the chair signed it.
right. So I'd have to look that up to see if there was a history of a meeting on that day,
Right,
and that's when it was approved.
right.
So if the board adopts if it's a new policy, either way. But if a board approves the policy, then the chair needs to sign it that
No,
day, that,
no,
no,
no.
but it needs to be linked to the approval was that day,
The
that meeting.
approval date has to be the meeting date, but the chair, because it could be that it was all approved, but now it has to be reformatted or something has to happen here. And it takes a few days before the chair can sign it. Yeah. So. Okay,
Okay, but we want the chair's signature to be dated.
Is that important?
Yes,
well, I'm trying
The
to,
action taken is by the board, not by the chair.
Right.
The chair is just verifying that action. And the chair might not have been at the meeting, but listens to the tape or looks at the minutes.
right, and the chair got later and signed it to just finish up the business. But that's an action taken by the chair that I would feel much more
I
comfortable if
think
that
we
was
can put
the,
the date of the chair's signature on.
the day of the chair's signature.
So Sarah, can you draft a format for us to look at our next meeting?
Would-
And then what we want to add after that is, um, purpose.
Would you all be able to go over it one more time?
Sure.
Just to make sure I'm capturing.
Right. So,
This box at the top.
so you,
I just grabbed it.
okay, let me just do a box. You're gonna have. There's your number. There's your title. And then you're gonna have or adopt or approve. And actually, it might be. And that's the date. Date. And then, chair sign. Signature and date. Okay, we're not gonna have a box here. Okay, then the second time around. What's gonna happen is. All of this will go down to the second line and you will insert new line. Purpose. And policy. Is that? And do we want to do anything else?
I don't think so. One thing that I think can happen, I pointed out that this is the two policies, but a policy can have two related or three related things in it. And that's one of the one of the reasons that the purpose statement is useful, that you're going to capture that it covers this.
Yeah, and
And the title may not, but because you need to maintain the numbering system. So you get a new policy, it's now become the 108 or, however the number goes. But this one, you had to maintain this system. You don't want to throw off the policy numbers. You can't throw off the policy. And so in policies, you could still keep this as 101 and have two sections.
well, and you can have 101.1, 101.5.
Right.
You can,
Yeah.
and then if you had to put something between them, 101.1A.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There are ways you can do
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Okay, and what I also like is a footer. And I would want the footer, I think, to say the current date. And I have a dating formula. I always put the last two numbers of the year and then the two numbers of the month. And then the numbers of the date. And that way, that's how I name my files, because then they are always in chronological order. Whichever way I want to put them. And then I probably put the policy number and then page number, because some policies could take one. Page 1 of 1, page 1 of 5. Page,
Like it's honest. That's it. Yeah.
Oh, good. So then if we did add history, could that go with your foot underneath?
well, that's not a footnote. I guess they are called footnotes. It's not
It's usually a footer.
footer.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
what
okay,
Did
okay.
I call it say footnote?
Yeah,
Footer.
I said footnote, and then,
Yeah.
so footer
I
is
think I
different.
just gave.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. Okay, we're almost done. We need to set our next meeting. And I'm not sure that the board is expecting us to bring any recommendations, specific policy back,
Yeah.
but
we're ready.
I think we're not ready to, so. But our next board meeting is the 19th, is it not? It's next week, it's Thursday,
That's what I know.
right? No,
No,
no, it's, 1, 2, 3. It's the 4th.
February.
It's the 26th. Okay, so can we get a meeting in before the next meeting? And one thing that is really helpful for me is if we could come up with a meeting date and time that's the same every month. I don't know how that works for each of you.
That is so good for my brain.
Good. Okay,
I have a very autistic brain, so
okay.
that's very good for my brain.
So do we want to meet next week? Or, let's see. I could meet on the 23rd, which is a Monday.
I can meet on the next Thursday.
You can or cannot.
I can.
That's the 19th you could meet?
Cause we had our board meeting on that.
What time?
Oh, I got both, let's see here, just go to accounts. I could meet, got that. We have a 2:30 meeting up at the hospital. Supposed to have a Zoom meeting. Could we meet at 1? Does that work? Either 12:30 or 1?
Or how long?
Latest I could meet is till 2:15, because it would take me 15 minutes to get. Can we get enough done to do a 1 to 2:15? Is that enough time?
I think that's kind of short.
It is, it
You
is.
have to work around staff lunches. So every minute will vary.
Um,
I just need to be done by 3 because I have to be home by 3.
okay. So what do you think? Can we do, I could get myself here at 12:30. 12:30 to 2:15? Does that work for you, Penny?
Yeah, that would work.
Okay,
That would work for me. On the 19th,
on the 19th, yes. Okay. And then, look at your calendars.
And you say if I get the right place on my phone, 12:30 to,
To 2:15. So you need to put out a meeting notice. And on the agenda, just put, discussion of bylaw, discussion of, policy revision. Okay. So, this is SETD. And then maybe we can, would you rather I send out a doodle poll, or would you rather come to the meeting with a couple of regular meeting dates and times that would work for you? It's probably easier to do a doodle.
It probably is.
Okay, I'll send out a doodle.
I don't mind doing a doodle poll, but when we finalize something, it doesn't show.
That's because I have to get back to you and tell you what the finalize. Because the doodle poll just gives me info and then I look at it. The doodle poll doesn't finalize anything.
It doesn't mark that you've decided.
Yeah, it marks that you've decided and you submit that to me. And you can see how many votes are on each.
But there's a results page on the doodle.
Yeah, but that's only the voting results. It's not the
Okay,
meeting set results.
gotcha.
Okay, why does it say 11? It should say 12. 12:15, no. What did I say?
12:30.
12:30 to 2:15.
And if it's Thursday, February 19th.
Okay, Thursday, February 19th, 12:30 to 2:15, SETD Policy Committee. That makes sense for everybody? Okay, it is 3:02 and we are adjourned. And just, I have homework, just so we know. I will throw things into ChatGPT. I'm gonna talk to